Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I would like to thank Radka Heislova and Kristina Hulikova for organizing this conference and for your kindness. For my part, I would like to talk to you today about the network of a rich patron, Nathaniel the Rothschild, his relationships, his contacts with his friends and with the artist he commissioned, as well as denouncing a world dominated by money. You can see here coins and bags of banknotes. This caricature shows the three major branches of the Rothschild family, represented by the letters of commerce, with Vienna, Frankfurt, and London as their destinations. This network study will therefore focus on a specific case, that of Nathaniel the Rothschild, within the Austrian branch of the family. Through this case study, it will be possible to explore the question of word of mouth between wealthy patrons and modest artists in the second half of the 19th century. Nathaniel of Rothschild was born in 1836 in Frankfurt. He was the first of three sons of Salomon de Rothschild, then head of the Viennese branch of the family bank. The father invested heavily in the railway industry and founded the Creditensalt Bank. He also enjoyed collecting works of art, which he displayed in his museum. And when he died in 1874, he bequeathed his fortune and his collection to his three sons, Nathaniel, Ferdinand, and Albert. Nathaniel was not destined to take over from his father, leaving this responsibility to his brother Albert. Nathaniel preferred to devote himself fully to his father's art collection and decided to build a palace to house and present this art collection, a palace to which I will return in a moment. The Vienna archives reveal Nathaniel's extensive network in the Austrian capital. He received and wrote letters to many different personalities, like the director of the Imperial Library of Vienna, like Garabachek, also a writer like Bauer, a diplomat like Demme, a collector like de Bourgoin, an archaeologist like Bendorf, or even a painter like Gaulle. Among all these contacts, I would like to focus on the relation between Nathaniel de Rothschild and a person who resembles him from a social point of view, another son of a banker, Paul de Bussière, and also Eugène Doc. Paul de Bussière was born in 1827 in Strasbourg. His father, Alfred, was a renowned banker. He managed the Paris Mint between 1860 and 1880 and was also elected deputy during the Second Empire. The railway and Alsatian industry were its main investments. Paul de Bussière's situation was very similar of that of Nathaniel de Rothschild. Both were sons of rich bankers, but were uninterested in taking over from their father, and both decided to invest in charitable work. Nathaniel financed a hospital, for example. These two families, the Bussières and the Rothschilds, are linked by their banking business, sometimes allied, sometimes opposed, particularly during the creation of the Société Générale de Crédit Mobilier, where the Bussières allied themselves with the Pereire brothers. Furthermore, the two men had their homes built at the same time. Nathaniel ordered a palace in Vienna from the French architect Jean Girette, and Paul had his castle in Schoppenwirth in Alsace enlarged by Eugène Doc, a decorator sculptor born in Strasbourg, trained at the Beaux-Arts in Paris. between 1841 and 1844 and returned to Alsace in 1860. The two men, Nathaniel and Paul de Bussière, traveled regularly between Paris and Vienna, two of the great financial centers of the 19th century, two capitals where each family had its ties. For example, Nathaniel traveled to Paris in September 1874 to inaugurate an Israelite consistorial temple, while Paul went to Vienna at least 6 times between 1872 and 1888. On his first trip to the Austrian capital in November 1872, Paul de Bussière stayed at the prestigious Grand Hotel, the city's first luxury hotel with an elevator and a facade overlooking the famous Ringstrasse or the Vienna Ring Road. Paul de Bussière wrote to Eugène Doc on 3rd November 1872 from this location, Grand Hotel, and he was impatient with the progress of work on his castle in Alsace. He wrote, "My dear Doc, I beg you to give him all the drawings. Consider the expense and waste of time." He wrote also, "Mr. Rothschild is building a house where there will be many beautiful things to do. Could you come for a week?" Bussière was aware that Nathaniel was having a palace built, even though the work may not have begun, since the architect's first drawing is dated March 1872. The two men, Paul and Nathaniel, must therefore have discussed this project together. It is quite likely that Bussière told Nathaniel about his decorator sculptor friend Eugène Doc at that time. Nathaniel went on to write to Doc in the same letter, "You'd probably see and take orders. You would come and establish yourself in Vienna, where there is a shortage of decorators and sculptors, where there is a lot of building done with awful materials and appalling taste. And where I see that you would make money and that you would carve a name. It's tempting. If you come, you will find me in Vienna on Tuesday, the 12th. Here, Bussière is trying to convince Eugène Doc, advising him on his career as a friend would. Although Eugène Doc's reply is not known, everything suggests that Eugène Doc did not travel to Vienna as he was busy working on the Schopenhauer site. Early in the summer of 1879, Paul de Bussière sent a telegram to Eugène Doc, asking him to come quickly to his home. The reason for this urgent request was that Baron Nathaniel de Rothschild was coming to visit Schopenhauer. He wrote, "Come today to meet Baron Rothschild." He wanted to organize a meeting between Nathaniel and Eugène Doc at the castle, so that the Baron could see with his own eyes the quality of Doc's work, and thus be convinced of his talent. During this visit to Schopenhauer, Nathaniel saw the large neo-Renaissance living room decorated by Eugène Doc. It features an imposing fireplace, plenty of furniture, including a beer table, and several sailing designs. The presence of this type of Dutch chandelier in the respective homes of Paul and Nathaniel testifies to their shared taste. Paul de Bussière certainly praised Eugène Doc's culture, an artist with a keen interest in the Renaissance and especially in the 16th century, an artist who collected old engravings and prints, an artist with a rich library like Celio's architectural treatise. Then Nathaniel, certainly attracted by these qualities, sent his first letter to Eugène Doc on 21st July, only a few days after his visit to Schopenhauer. He wrote, "Have you received the drawings of my Renaissance room? Have you found the time to look after my little business? And when do you think you will be able to propose a project for decorating the vault and go to Vienna? The drawings of the Renaissance room that Nathaniel speaks of are preserved in the studio founds of Eugène Doc in Strasbourg. These two drawings on tracing paper are dimensioned, certainly drawn up by the architect Jean Girette, of the room for which Nathaniel wanted Doc to decorate the ceiling. Nathaniel told Eugène Doc that the decorations of the walls and the cornice had already been done. As surprising as it may seem, we learn that from other letters that Eugène Doc never went to Vienna, much to the regret of Nathaniel de Rothschild. Doc merely the Baron with a few drawings, and in the last letter between the two men, the Baron Nathaniel de Rothschild wrote on the 29th September 1879, I have received the sketch you sent from my Renaissance sailing. I'm very sorry you can't come here. And he wrote also, I have given your sketch to my architect, who thinks it will work well. Then the architect later turned to Antoine Zoger, another sculptor of Alsatian origin, who was settled in Vienna and joined the Rothschild around 1873 for the material work. Photographs taken of his work in his studio are quite similar to the patterns of Nathaniel's sailing. However, it is impossible to know whether he followed Doc's sketches or not. Finally, I must add that this palace was the headquarters of the Gestapo during the Second World War, then heavily damaged during bombing raids in 1944 and completely destroyed in the 1950s. This photograph and the drawings I've showed you are therefore the last references of this building. To sum up, although Paul de Bussière succeeded in convincing Nathaniel de Rothschild of the talent of his friend Eugène Doc, the decorator sculptor, was not very enthusiastic about this commission, which was nonetheless very prestigious and could have led to many others in the future. In fact, it was quite common for the Rothschilds to approach little-known artists, no doubt in order to keep a close eye on them, especially modest French artists, since the 1873 Vienna World's Fair, which boosted their reputation in the Austrian capital. But this time, however, this strategy did not work with Eugène Doc. This case study is therefore proof that being the most important patrons of the 19th century, as the specialist Pauline Prévost-Marcilliacy claims, was not synonymous with power over modest artists who preferred to respond to other patrons who were clearly less wealthy than the Rothschilds, but certainly less demanding too. Eugène Doc responded more to orders from factory directors or Alsatian and Parisian bourgeoisie. His network is well documented with several hundred letters, most of which have yet to be read and deciphered. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Quentin, for this remarkable insight into the Rothschild networks and their demands, and in comparison with the modest artists, as you said. And I'm opening the discussion. Are there any questions? So I'm interested in what happens with the palace, because you write in your abstract that the palace was destroyed in 1944 after bombing Nathaniel's palace. And Nathaniel was also art lover, and there were, I suppose, art collections, etc. So what happens with them after
the Nazis took the collection, the art collection,
Mhm.
and then this collection was sold. But
So they disappeared,
yeah.
they disseminated.
Yes.
Yes. And the photos you showed is nowadays deposited in the archive of Eugène Doc in Strasbourg, the photos of the palace.
This photograph?
Yeah.
No, it's
No,
in
this.
the National Bibliothèque in Vienna.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.